Thanks, Giles. Yes, good morning. What I'm going to cover today is probably a function that some of you may be familiar with, but then again may have touched on it briefly many years ago and never revisited it. And it's what we call rectify allocations. Now, rectify allocations can be found within the sales ledger and also the purchase ledger. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you around the sales ledger. So what I'm actually doing here, you will be able to replicate within the purchase ledger. The idea behind the rectify allocation is if you have inadvertently allocated a payment, or it could be a receipt, to the wrong invoice and certain transactions that you've got. So if I was to take it back before rectify allocations came in, you would have had to create things like adjustment codes, etc. And when you come to produce a statement, it looked rather messy what you were sending to your customer. So what rectify allocation will do is that when you allocate against any invoices or credit notes that you've got, what it actually does, it returns those transactions back onto the account. So if you therefore then to run a quick statement, those invoices will appear, even though previously you'd have allocated the payment to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of just take you through that process. So what you will find is on your action button, you've got this option down here at the bottom called Rectify Allocation. So I'm just going to click onto that. And immediately what you're going to see here are the radio buttons. So what it's basically sort of saying here is I can choose either today's transaction. So what may have happened is that I may have done a posting today and realized it was incorrect. And what I wanted to do was rectify or correct it. If I just go next, you can see obviously a transaction that I did today. So I did that bright and early this morning. Let me just go back. And if I go to this period, you can see here that I've got actually two receipts. So one that I did this morning and another one that I did yesterday. So let me just go back again so you can clearly see this period. So that's within this current period that you are running within your sales ledger. So if I've got multiple payments against that account within that period, then I can see them all and then select the payment that I want to reverse. You also have a selected range. So it might be an allocation that may have been done in a previous period. So what you've suddenly found out is that the allocation of the payment has gone against a wrong invoice, and what you want to do is correct that. Now, any corrections that I actually do here, there is a full audit trail of anything that goes on, and I'll focus on that a little bit later on for you. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm just going to choose today's transaction. So if I go next, and where you've allocated a receipt against invoice, you will see there is an allocation number. And I'm sure you're sort of very familiar with this when you are looking at a view of an account. And what it actually does, it gives it a unique ID where you can actually associate the payment to the invoices that you've got. So let's say for argument's sake on this one, what I've actually done here is that I've actually posted that payment onto the account, and actually I've posted it to the wrong account. So what I can do here is if I just double click, and what it will do, it will tag the associated invoice against that receipt. So this could be invoices or credit notes. Now, what I want to do here, I have an option down here called remove allocated transactions. So this is where I've posted £120 onto this account, which was Adam's Light Engineering, but then I've suddenly realized I've posted it to the wrong account. It should have gone to another account. So what I want to do is I want to take the payment off the account, put the invoice back onto the account again, and then go away and do the payment to the correct account. So by ticking this option down here, it says remove allocated transaction. If I go to next, okay, I've got open period accounting on here. This is just asking me for my nominal posting period, so I'm just going to click OK on that. Those that don't have open period accounting, again, I've mentioned this previously. If you want to have a quick chat about that, I'm more than happy to do so. So what you can see here is a screen. So what it's telling me here at the top, it says the transactions to be rectified. So this is the receipt and the invoice. And if you just look down here, the transaction to be removed is the receipt. So as I was saying before, I want to remove the receipt off this account. So therefore I can then go and post that onto the correct account. Now, it's important, you will see down here that you've got start, and start is slightly grayed out. The reason being is it's important that you put a comment in there of why you are actually making that rectification that we've got. Now, you can put anything that you like in there. So even if I did that, you can see start is now highlighted. Now we'll be able to do that. But putting something like for use in there is nonsensical. So if your auditor was looking at, they want really to see something that's meaningful. So what I would suggest is that where you've got something like a comment is that you could just say posted amount to wrong account, and probably should be let's say only, just as a. So it's important that you actually put some form of comment in there. So as soon as I've done that, if I now go to start, it then warns you to say you are about to rectify the allocation process. Are you sure? Remember, the default is no. So great believer in always looking at these. Don't just accept what you actually see. Double check what it is that exactly you're going to be doing. So I'm going to say yes. And immediately I get this screen here. I'm just going to publish this. Now, this is the audit trail that we've got. What I would recommend is that if you are doing any rectification of allocations, I would actually print this off, because this is your audit trail. Now, the other thing also, you can actually go and rerun these reports, and I'll cover that again. I'll show you exactly where those reports can be found. But if you look on here, it's exactly what I expected. So this is against the account. I've got the reference number, a deallocation for the invoice and receipt, and obviously the comment where I said posted amount to wrong account. But what you actually see below is the receipt being moved. And what this will do a refund if you've got cash book within your cash book. So you can see, obviously, I've got that value of 120. If I close the screen, I now click finish, and remember I've got this invoice number here 56377, and what I expect to see is that invoice back on that account and not allocated. Okay, so if I just click finish, let's go and have a quick look at the account again. Let's go okay on that one. Let's just take that down to the bottom. And what you will see there is the invoice back on the account, ready to be posted again. So I am now £120 out. So what I will do is I will therefore go to the correct account and do the posting. So that's just showing you there, taking a payment off an account because I've posted it to the wrong account, and therefore I can then go to the correct account and then do the necessary posting. Now, the other one that I'm going to show you is if I go to Rectify Allocations again, I'm going to choose this period. Remember what I chose before was today's transaction, so I've just focused in that one that I did earlier this morning. So if I just go for this period, and what you can see here now is exactly the same screen that I saw before. And again, all I need to do is click the option or the payment that I've got there, and it will tag the associated transactions that relate to that receipt. So again, could be invoices and credit notes. This time, I'm not going to remove the allocated transaction because what I've actually done here is that I've posted £130. I've allocated it against 25 and 105, but I realised that actually I've allocated against the wrong invoice, and it is actually this one, 4501. So I'm going to show you how I can repost the payment back onto the account and reallocate. So if I go next, again, I see a confirmation screen. I've got a comment down here. And again, what I'm going to say is payment to wrong voice. Obviously, you're going to put something a little bit more detailed than in my short narratives. So if I now click start, it says, are you sure about running the rectify allocation process? Are you sure? Yes, I am. And if I go to publish, you can see obviously the report that's come out. So again, this is the audit trail that we've got. So as soon as I close this, I click finish. And what it is now saying, would you like to reallocate the transaction? So in this instance, I've not removed the 130 off the account. That is still there. If I say no to that, what it will do, it will put the £130 on account. So therefore, you could go back into your allocations process and reallocate it this way. But if you know that the particular mistake that's been made here, you can redo the allocation at this point. So what I'm actually going to do is do the reallocation. So if I say yes, I'm then presented with a familiar screen. So if you remember down here, what I actually had was that I had a wrong invoice. So I had it allocated against that one originally. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pay that in full. And then I'm going to select this invoice because it was this invoice that I actually wanted the allocation to be made to. So if I do that, okay. Yes, what I should have done was selected the payment schoolboy error there, because you can see the amounts that I put back on the account. So select your payment first. So apologies for that. And then what you want to do is select the correct invoice. So what we'll do, I'll just cancel the allocation. I've got myself in a little bit of a tiz there. So there we go. I can pay that one in full. And now you can see, obviously, I've got that to 0. So really what I've done is, originally I had it allocated against that invoice up here, 4500 and 4501, and realized it was the wrong invoice that I'd allocated the payment against. So what I did was I ticked those together to rectify, kept the balance on the account. This loads up the allocation screen, select the receipt, and then select the correct invoice that you want to associate that with. So if I now click OK, and let's go and have a look at the account. So we just come down to the bottom, and there you can see the invoice. Now, just something I'll quickly show people here that they might not be familiar with, and you can see obviously this is what we call the allocation number. So any payment that you actually put onto an account, it increments by 1. A lot of people sort of struggle and say, well, how can I sort of bring those together? So just a quick win here. Just on your action button, you've got this option here called change view. So if you highlight a transaction, if I do this, and then what it does, it groups it together with the invoice and the payment. Because obviously when you're looking at the account, it just looks based on date. But that's a quick way of sort of grouping everything together. So you can clearly see there now that I've reallocated that payment within the same process by taking away the wrong invoice and posting it to the correct invoice. So what does that do in terms of audit trail? Because obviously what we saw with the certain reports that were popping up, I put those to screen. Again, you could put those to screen or obviously print them out. But if you miss that opportunity, what you do have is under your reports, you have rectify allocations. Now, what I would suggest to people have certain sort of month-end procedures where they're producing things like the daybook listings, you know, sort of the receipts and adjustments, etc. It's not a bad thing to actually introduce this within your month-end report listing if you are doing rectifications that are going on, because what you can see here, it will default to this period. So what will happen is when I come to do the period again, that gets cleared down exactly the same it would do with your invoices and credit notes and your receipts and adjustments report. However, you can actually go back and produce it based on a select range. So it's entirely up to you. You could leave it, but if you are using Rectify, I probably would strongly recommend make that part maybe of your month-end procedure. Now, one thing that I do think is important down here is this little button that we've got down here that says remove transactions. I strongly believe that this should be a default, and it's something that we've asked Pegasus to do, because why would you not want to know those? So just to point that out, if you are using this area, just ensure that you choose removed transactions. So let me just click OK. Let me just produce the report. And again, what I actually get is a replication of those individual reports that were printed whilst I was doing the rectification on the account. So again, we can see at the top here, that was a payment to wrong invoice. And this one down here was where I physically removed the payment off the account and then put the invoices back onto there. Okay, that really covers rectify allocations. Like I said to you, on the purchase ledger, you have exactly the same option down here, and it does exactly the same function that you've just seen on the sales. Important, when you're using rectify allocations, make sure that you find the account that you are actually doing the rectification on.